We're going to show you how to install PMI's number 380 dual tack pallet tape, and we'll also do a review coming up. Welcome back, screen printers. Let's go ahead and dive right into that tutorial and that review. Alright, here is our roll of PMI pallet tape. This is a sample roll, which you guys can go over to their website and sign up for samples yourself and get this for free to try out. So I've pre-drawn my center line onto my pallet. This tape is clear once you peel up the backing on it. So let me show you guys how to install this. I'm just gonna unroll some of this tape here. And in this case, this is 15-inch wide tape, so it should fit perfectly on our little pallet here. So I'm just going to roll it out. I'm going to line it up. And this stuff is really sticky, the part that adheres to the pallet itself. So I'm going to just line this up with my pallet. I think I'll let it, we won't let it overhang. I'm just going to give myself about 1/4 of an inch down at the bottom. And I'm going to apply the bottom part. I'll say one of the things about this tape is you do have to make sure all your bubbles are out. This tape tends to be a little more, it tends to have bubbles a little more, which isn't a big deal because, as I'll say in the beginning, the beginning of this video, that this is a little bit of a review as well. I'm going to show you guys how to install this stuff real quick, and I'm just using a squeegee. It's a little plastic squeegee blade. And as I'm working this pallet tape on, I'm just trying to get all my bubbles out. So you will need some sort of squeegee. You could just take the roll, but I've tried the roll method of flattening this stuff on, and it just doesn't tend to work as well as the squeegee method of getting all the bubbles out. So I'm just trying to get as many of these bubbles out and get this as flat as possible. So I'm going to keep rolling this out. Hopefully my arm is not in y'all's way. And on the automatic, where we do have 8 stations, I tend to go a little faster than this. The bubbles really don't hurt too much, as long as you don't have a ton of them. Okay, so that's looking pretty flat. Now I'm going to take my razor and I'm just going to run it right along the edge, and I'm going to follow the curvatures of this pallet, because you want to trim off any of the excess pallet tape that's hanging off, because it could potentially make it easier to pull this stuff up. Okay, so we got our tape applied. Now I'm going to go, actually let me trim this little corner down over here. There we go. We got a little bit overhanging here. Okay. Now I'm just going to take my fingernail and pull the backing tape right off. Now our pallet tape is nice and applied, and it's very sticky. I'm going to put a shirt onto the pallet just to demonstrate how tacky this is. And initially you may want to just take a rag shirt and just kind of dab your pallets just to kind of get rid of some of the tack. I tend to just go ahead and roll with it as is. And watch how sticky this is, guys. Alright, let's go ahead and get a little bit of a close-up so you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to these bubbles. So here you can see in the reflection, there are some bubbles in there. It is pretty difficult to get some of these bubbles out. Again, we haven't had any real issues with the bubbles showing up in any of our prints. I'm trying to get a good angle here where I'm not in a shadow. You can see some of those bubbles. Not that big of a deal, but it is super tacky. Now for the review portion. So here is one of our pallets that we have actually did quite a bit of printing on. Actually ended up taking this pallet tape off at one point. I forgot why, but it's pretty easy to peel right off. And I had even reapplied it back onto this pallet, I believe because we were doing some neck labels, and those neck labels were going over some patches, so I had to make a little bit of a jig to go around that, make it a nice flat surface. But this stuff's pretty easy to peel right off, and you don't have any overspray or any excess tack hanging out on top of your pallet or on the edges. Alright, let's go over to the automatic and I'll show you what has been going on with the PMI pallet tape on the automatic and any issues that have come up. Here we are on the automatic press. We've run off quite a bit of shirts on this pallet tape. I've cleaned the lint off maybe about 3 times since I've installed it. PMI suggests using a grout brush or sponge. We happen to have a scrub brush, which most of you guys will have some of these sitting in your shop. If you don't and you're in the market for some of these, I'll leave a link down in the description as to where you can grab some of these. But I just have, what I have here is an old, just kind of cheap spray bottle that had some glass cleaner in it basically. It's a generic Windex. But I'm going to spray just a little bit of water on here, and then I'm going to use my scrub brush to get rid of the lint. And now what this does is it reactivates the tack because you're getting rid of all the lint. So at this point all I would have to do is wait for this to evaporate or run it underneath my flash and it will be tacky all over again. I don't currently have my flash on, so I'm not going to flash this, but I can tell you from my experience that it does tack back up and holds up really well. So some of the issues that I have run into, at least with the automatic, as you can see here, we've actually worn through the actual pallet tape itself, but that really is probably just because of user error, because with our press, the way it is, with these V-squeegees, they flip over, and when you're starting a job, they tend to get pretty close to touching, and sometimes touching, depending on how everything's adjusted. In this instant, I forgot to put some tape on the back of my screen to prevent this from happening, so it pulled off some of the emulsion. And I can't recall whether or not this particular hole here was because of scrubbing off the emulsion, or if it's just from cleaning this time after time. Eventually it will break down. However, being able to put down pallet tape that already has the adhesive, not to use any spray adhesive or spreadable adhesive, as soon as you put it down, you're ready to go. Granted, your pallets are warmed up. And you can see here there are some wrinkles in the pallet tape. It might just be me not putting this on, maybe putting it on in a rush. We tend not to print images that go this entire length of this pallet. I believe it is 17 by like 24. It's a pretty long pallet. So that could be why these bubbles are here, because we've been printing down up till about this point here. But I've been pretty happy with it this far. I can't really complain, but these are some of the things that I think you guys should be aware of. Well, I hope this install and review video was helpful to help you make up your mind as to whether or not the PMI tape is right for you. That's about it for now, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get some work done. We'll see you in the next video.